She too looked pale and distracted, but she came across to us in a hurry. "Stop it, Emily," she said. "Louisa, get some water somewhere and throw it over her." "Emily, for God's sake." Whether it was the threat of the water or the furious anger in Miss Margaret's voice I do not know, but Miss Emily stopped anyhow, and sat up. "You're a cold-blooded woman, Margaret." "With mother? Who do you think you are helping by fainting and screaming?" Margaret demanded sharply. "Do you want father to hear you?" "Does he know?" "He knows." Miss Margaret's voice was grim. "I told them not to let him go upstairs." Naturally I knew or was certain by that time that Mrs. Lancaster was dead, and as everyone had known how faithfully Emily had cared for her mother, I could understand her hysteria well enough. She was an emotional woman, given to the reading of light romances and considered sentimental by the Crescent. Margaret had been a devoted daughter also, but she was more matter-of-fact. In a way, Emily had been the nurse and Margaret had been the housekeeper of the establishment. The screen door was still unfastened, and together we got Emily into the house and across the main hall to the library. Margaret was leading the way, and I remember now that she stopped and picked up something from the floor near the foot of the stairs. I did not notice it particularly at the time, for the patrolman, Lynch, was at the telephone in the lower hall, and well as I knew him he stared at me and through me as he talked. "That's it," he said. "Looks like it was done with an axe. Yes, yeah, I got it." "Okay." He hung up and ran up the stairs again. Suddenly I felt sick and cold all over. Somebody had been hurt, or killed with an axe. But that automatically removed Mrs. Lancaster from my mind as the victim. Who would kill that helpless old woman, and with an axe? Confused as I was excited but still ignorant when we reached the library door, and it was not until I saw old Mr. Lancaster that I knew. He was alone, lying back in a big leather chair, his face bloodless and his eyes closed. He did not even open them when we went in, or when Margaret helped me get Emily onto the leather couch there. It was after we had settled her there that Margaret went to him and put a hand on his shoulder. "You know that it was murder, don't you, Father?" He nodded. "Who told you?" "Eben." His lips scarcely moved. "I met him on the street." "But you haven't been up?" "No. I'll get you a glass of wine." She patted his shoulder and disappeared, leaving the three of us to one of those appalling silences which are like thunder in the ears. It was the old man who broke it finally. He opened his eyes and looked at Emily, shuddering on the couch. "You found her?" he asked, still without moving. "Yes. Please, Father, don't let's talk about it." "You didn't hear anything?" "No. I was dressing with my door closed." "And Margaret? I don't see how she could." "She was taking a bath. The water was running when I called her." Margaret brought in a glass of port wine, and he drank it. Always small, he seemed to have shrunk in the last few minutes. A dapper little man, looking younger than his years, he was as much a part of the crescent as Mrs. Talbot's dahlias, or our own elm trees, a creature of small but regular habits, so that we could have set our clocks by his afternoon walk, or our calendars by his appearance in his fall overcoat. But if he was stricken, I imagine that it was with horror rather than grief. After all, a man can hardly be heartbroken over the death of a wife who has been an exacting invalid for 20 years or so, and a bedridden one for 10. The wine apparently revived him, for he sat up and looked at the two women, middle-aged and now pallid and shaken. It was a searching look, intent and rather strange. He surveyed Emily moaning on the couch, a huddled white picture of grief.